Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. One of the more under talked about, but really influential storylines that we're seeing develop in the college football landscape is what this Clemson offense has looked like to start the 2024 season. Now, you go back to the conversations we had about Clemson heading into 2020. We always said, if this Clemson offense even marginally gets better from what we saw in 2023, this is going to be a dangerous team in 2024. Now, this Clemson offense hasn't just improved marginally, it has improved, I think, significantly in 2024. And a lot of the credit you have to give is what we've seen from quarterback Cade Klubnik. Now, we've talked about Cade and how he's looked different from 2023, but we haven't really taken a deep dive into what makes this Clemson offense different, what makes Cade different as a quarterback in 2024. Want to get into a little bit of the film, a little bit of the numbers, and kind of break down why this Clemson offense has really found its stride in 2024. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, to the Clemson fans, I can't thank you guys enough for all the support y'all have shown the last couple of weeks. I've had a blast talking this program. The amount of support you guys continue to show means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one. Now, you take a look at the numbers: 67% completion percentage, 17 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions, also adding 4 rushing touchdowns. It's clear that Cade is playing significantly better than he did in 2023. Now the question is, what has changed within this Clemson offense? And let's just start broad. And we kind of talked about this heading into 2024. This is year 2 for Cade as a starter. This is year 2 under Coach Riley's system. And I think most importantly, the playmakers around him are so much more reliable and better than what we saw in 2023. I mean, they're healthier. You can tell Cade's a little bit more, much more on the same page with his pass catchers as well. Those were all things that, kind of led us to be optimistic about what this Clemson offense would be. And I had kind of high expectations for Cade in 2024. He's comfortably surpassed those expectations. So you look at the broad storylines and say, all right, it makes sense. Those are some reasons why Cade looks better. You get into a little bit more of the weeds here and what's different about this Clemson offense. There's a couple of things that stand out. One, this Clemson offense is much more explosive and vertical than we saw in 2023. Now, you go back to the conversations we had in the offseason, it always felt like Clemson was so condensed on the offensive side of the football in 2023. There wasn't much of a vertical passing attack that Clemson had in 2023. And I think that's a storyline for two different things. One, Cade not as comfortable at the quarterback position, a little bit gun shy when it comes to pushing the ball down the field. But I think another big storyline was what wide receivers were stepping up vertically for Clemson in 2023. You didn't really have those kind of guys. Now you look at 2024 and say the emergence of TJ Moore and Brian Wesco, that's been a massive storyline. I think you've seen Antonio Williams become a much more well-rounded wide receiver than what we've seen the last 2 years. So I think the playmakers are different, but you look at the average depth of target, you go back to 2023, it was only 7 yards down the field. I mean, this Clemson offense just wasn't pushing the ball down the field at all in 2023. That hurt the offense for a couple of different reasons. One, they just couldn't be explosive down the field because they weren't pushing the ball down the field. But when you don't have that threat of a vertical passing attack, you just saw teams really scrunch down on Clemson. And so there wasn't a lot of space getting created in the offense. You fast forward to 2024, the average depth of target, 9.9 yards, 3 yards in differential between the average depth of target in 2023 to what we're seeing in 2024. That's a major difference. I think second, Cade is much better pushing the ball 20 plus yards down the field than we saw in 2023. The completion percentage is up to 46%. I mean, 46% completion percentage on footballs going 20 plus yards down the field. That's an exceptional number. I think another storyline here, and we're going to get into this a little bit more, the utilization of play action. This Clemson rushing attack is sneaky, a top 10 rushing attack that we see in the country in terms of yards per carry. Now, Phil Moff has been awesome. I think the offensive line has taken a step, and I think the emergence of Cade being a little bit more comfortable using his legs has certainly helped as well. And so you go back to 2023, they were only using play action 31% of the time. Now you go to 2024, play action 45% of dropbacks. Nearly half of these Clemson dropbacks are including play action. couple of reasons for that. One, the rushing attack is much better, so you can use play action more and it's more effective. But I think secondly, Cade's not taking as many sacks. This Clemson offense is not taking as many negative plays, so you can use play action a little bit more. Like it's hard to use play action effectively when it's 2nd and 16 and the defense knows you ain't running the football. But when you're in 3rd and 3 and you have that whole playbook open, you can go to play action more. And Cade has been very, very good under play action. And I think lastly, Cade is processing at a much higher rate. You go back to last year when he was blitzed, 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. It was very clear that when Cade saw pressure, he was not very comfortable. You fast forward to 2024 when pressured or when blitzed, I should say, 7 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. You see on the film that when he sees pressure, he knows how to replace. All right, we're getting pressure off from the nickel edge. We're going out there. We're replacing the pressure. He's so much more comfortable knowing when he's hot, where to go when he's hot. They're not taking negative plays. He's much more comfortable when he's blitzed. And I think as a story or as a result, less turnovers, more explosive plays. And so there are some fundamental changes that we've seen within this Clemson offense. Now you zero in on Cade. What have we seen different from Cade? I think it starts with the anticipation. This is the hardest thing for young quarterbacks. As a Michigan fan, JJ McCarthy struggled with this massively in his early career at Michigan, got much better during his final year. And what I mean by anticipation is, hey, at some points when you're playing really good defenses, you got to throw the football into throwing windows. It's not always going to be there when you're throwing it. You kind of have to trust it's going to be there when the football gets to your pass catchers. Cade didn't do that in 2023. There was a lot of, hey, I need to see the throw before I'm making the throw. You can get away with that. But when you play really good defenses and you can't throw with any anticipation, it's really hard to run a really effective offense. I think, secondly, the chemistry that he has with his pass catchers. I mean, it takes trust to know, hey, I'm throwing this, knowing where you're going to be at this moment, and the ball's going to hit you in the face mask. When you don't have that chemistry, which he clearly didn't in 2023 with all the injuries that they had, really, really hard to kind of trust it and throw with anticipation. You get into the film, and this is all just from one game against Wake Forest. I was watching it back, and I'm like, this is just, it's night and day different from what you saw from Cade in 2023. Take a look at this first rep here. Antonio Williams on the bottom of your screen here. You're going to get a cover 2 look from Wake Forest, meaning they're going to play with two high safeties and just underneath coverage. You know that this hole is going to be open right around the 10, maybe right around the 5 to the boundary. You play, and Cade certainly sees it coming. And again, he's going to throw it before Antonio Williams even gets out of his break. I mean, hey, we know we're going to attack this area of space right here. Cade knows it, throwing it all the way. He's throwing this football before Antonio Williams even gets his head around to look for the ball. You didn't see Cade doing this last year. You see him doing it this year. And I think this is a huge difference. Puts it right on the face mask of Antonio Williams. Tony Williams obviously making a play for a touchdown. Excuse me. Those are throws, by the way, very accurate throw too. That's a high level throw, not an easy throw. So we're making some big time throws, which we all knew he could make. I think more importantly, you start sprinkling in that anticipation that Cade's throwing with. It's just a different quarterback. Now you go to the next play, and I think the development of him and Jake Bringenstool, like that relationship has taken another step. You're going to see another really, really good work with anticipation here. Jake Bringenstool, top of your screen, going to be kind of running, kind of a little bit of a seam route. They're starting him out on the boundary. He's going to work right in, going to work vertical. Jake Bringenstool's head's not even around yet. Cade sees it. Jake doesn't quite yet. Cade's letting this football go before Jake's not even head turned around yet. He gets his head turned around. He's wearing it right on the face mask. Very good catch by Jake, late seeing it. And then, hey, we're making a play after the catch. I mean, again, you see at where this football is coming out, he's trusting it. Like, hey, I trust that Jake's going to get his head around and go make a play for me. You didn't see him doing that last year. So the anticipation that he's throwing with, it's really big time. Last one, we'll throw one more with Jake Bringenstool in here too. More anticipation, right? We're getting a cover 3 look from Wake Forest, so 3 high safeties, lighter zone coverage underneath. We know we're going to have to tack kind of a throwing window, a little gap in the zone. Jake Bringenstool historically very, very good at finding those gaps, but Cade last year wasn't really good at throwing his wide receivers to those throwing windows. Big step in this, right? You kind of look at how this play plays out here. We're going to attack the middle of the field. They're going 3 high safeties. So we know that we're going to have a little bit of space here to work with. in case throwing this again, like I trust that Jake's gonna get his head around so we can hit this shot for a first down. And Cade's getting ready to throw this before Jake, the ball's coming out of his hand before Jake even gets his head turned around. Again, Jake really good at getting his head turned around, finding the football, making a play. But again, this type of anticipation you didn't see from Cade last year. He's stepping out, a really good pocket management, knowing where we're gonna find that throwing window in the zone coverage. That ball's coming out right as Jake's getting his head around. His ability to throw with anticipation, it's been next level. I think the last thing I want to talk about is the utilization of play action. Now, this is going to make Clemson fans frustrated because Cade misses this throw, but I wanted to keep it all in the Wake Forest game. There's countless plays where Cade makes this throw. Just didn't right here. Hey, he's human. He's going to make some mistakes. Play action, though. When you run the football the way Clemson has been running it, linebackers and defenses need to start respecting what you're going to do. This is just a basic RPO. And again, this play is way more effective when you can run the football really effectively. You get this play action. Look at these linebackers. I mean, they're firing down because we got to respect what Clemson's doing running the football. What does that do to that middle of the field? Wide open. And again, Cade sees it. Cade knows where he's going with the football. He reads it well, just misses the throw. I don't know. I mean, Dabo Sweeney getting the film with him work on that throw, but you've seen Clemson go to this a ton of times where Cade is hitting that throw to his wide receiver in stride. And again, if you hit this in stride here, this might be going for a touchdown, to say at least going for 20 yards. And Cade doesn't miss that throw very often. And so the utilization of play action has been massive in this for this Clemson football team. Look, they're pushing the ball down the field more. Cade's been a way better in terms of throwing with anticipation. He's trusting his wide receivers. He's trusting himself. You are seeing a quarterback, in my opinion, just mature between our eyes, or not between our eyes, before our eyes. I think a lot of times college football fans, and I've been guilty of this in the past. I'm sure many Clemson fans who are listening to this at minute 12 have been guilty of it too. And that is assuming quarterbacks can't get better as seasons go on, or really just players. Like I feel like we sometimes forget these kids are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who still have a lot of development that needs to take place. There's not only people, but football players. A lot of people were really quick to write Cade off because he had a bad sophomore year where he didn't look like a five-star quarterback. I think sometimes you have to recognize that these kids are going to get better as they get more experience, as they get more confident as football players. There's not a better example right now than Cade Klubnik in 2024. If you get this version of Cade for the rest of 2024, mark my words, like this team looks different. I think if you run that Georgia football game back from week one, it's going to look different. I'm not saying Clemson's going to beat them right now, but I'm saying it'd be a lot more of a competitive football game. People need to start talking about Clemson because the way this offense is cooking right now, it's one of the most dangerous teams in college football. We'll cut it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.